Welcome to the Milk Bar. 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 Welcome to the Milk Bar.
Welcome along to episode 617 of the Milk Bar. Jason Forrest here with you as ever. And coming up on the show this week, we chat with Jeff Brazier and the team at Nationwide about their R.E.S.P.E.C.T campaign for grassroots football and the competition to design a commemorative coin. We'll be going along to have a look at the Duncan Edwards Foundation Museum. I chat with Rose Monk-Cook and also one of their ambassadors, Ewan Baggott, about the site and the wonderful exhibition space they have down there in Dudley. On top of that, we'll be joined by Chloe Rose. She's going to let us know about what it's like to be part of Trentham Live 2021. She's on the same bill as McFly on opening night on the 3rd of September. That should be an amazing gig. As well as that, we'll be hearing about Oscar's Book Prize and all the fun kids' books which are out there and being assessed this year. And we'll be finding out about a documentary on sudden adult death syndrome, which is on BBC Three iPlayer at the moment. And talking to Nick Gazzard. He is patron of the Hollie Gazzard Trust, which has an app, the Hollie Guard, to help those who find themselves in abusive relationships. That's all coming up on the show this week. The Duncan Edwards Foundation and Museum is looking forward to being able to reopen its doors during May, and the chance for people to look around and not only some new exhibits but also enjoy what's been in place for a little while now. Rose Monk, curator, joins me, as does one of their ambassadors, Ewan Baggott. Hello to you both.
Hi.
So, first of all, Rose, give us a bit of the history on this museum, because it is absolutely crammed full of history.
It is. It happened by accident, really. During the first lockdown last year, I had all this wonderful memorabilia in boxes and decided to put a little bit more of it out when people came to see us at the foundation. Mm-hmm. I shared this with the Fizzogs Dancing Grannies theatre group, and they said, "Oh, Rose, your side of the room is always so neat and ours isn't, so let's move into this room and you have the big room just over there." And I decided I was going to make it into a little museum. Mm-hmm. So when we were able to have people up here, Jimmy Murphy, who was a really big name, not only for Manchester United but for British football, mm-hmm. his lovely family came and unveiled it for us in August. We had about 7 or 8 weeks where we could allow visitors in. Mm-hmm. We had about 800 people come up to see us.
Which is good going. I know it was popular. And I've been threatening to come over since you opened, because we had a chat at the time, and I've only seen bits online. It's looked fantastic throughout. And having been here now, it's absolutely awesome, isn't it? And obviously, as things start to ease, you'll still be socially distanced. I've already seen you have hand sanitizer in place, etc. Yeah. So, I mean, you're ready to bring people in and tell them the story. And it is a walkthrough of Duncan Edwards' life.
It is. We extended, the Fizzogs sadly left us, and we had this room that we're standing in now, so I then extended it again. Mm-hmm. But I've done it as a walking storybook, really. So we start right at the beginning, 1936, 1st of October, when Duncan was born. Mm-hmm. So we have a representation of a 1930s living room. You walk through to a 1940s bedroom where Duncan's got footballers on his wall, because he already knew at this point that he wanted to play football. Yeah. You walk through the wardrobe as you would in Narnia to this magic kingdom, and the magic kingdom is, of course, Duncan's career. 1950s classroom, where a teacher says, "I've just seen the boy that will one day play for England." And it takes you through Duncan's career, even his army career, where he played for the British Army as well as Manchester United, and right through to the room that we're in now, the Munich room.
And in here you've got an AV presentation and something which is new, which you're stood just in front of at the moment. Now, this is a recreation of something which stands at the end of the runway Munich.
It does. It's in a little village called Tudoring, which is in Munich, but it's a little village, so, you know, something like Gornal would be to Dudley, you know. And this was placed at the end of the runway where the second part of the aeroplane came to a standstill. So the aeroplane cut into two, and this is at the end of the runway where the second bit came and sort of embedded itself into the ground. The authorities in Germany named it Manchesterplatz in memory of Manchester United. And my good friend Steve Merry, who's an absolute wizard, as you can see, at making things, put this in here for us. It's an I'll say that again. it's an absolute replica of the monument at Tudering, and I think it just finishes off the story really well.
And they're part of the legacy as well, and that's the thing. And as people have learned and been told the story over the years, I mean, it's sadly, I mean, it's a long time now since that disaster. But these are names that would have lived on and would have still been playing football. It certainly have been involved into my lifetime, even in a managerial role. So, you know, it is something which still strikes a chord, and particularly with the people of Dudley, this is something which really means something to them.
Absolutely. A lot of the visitors have been from Manchester, of course, because Duncan did play for Manchester United, but we do have a lot of local people come up. We have people that went to school with him, that grew up on the Priory estate with him, or have just heard through the generations what a fabulous football player Duncan was. Above and beyond that, of course, there was a life for him off the pitch, and it's that we try to remember as well as this huge talent. We want to remember that he's this real Black Country lad that you know, was just a friendly, happy-go-lucky young lad, and it's the essence of him that we want to keep as well.
And you will need a good couple of hours to make your way around a fraction of this. There is so much to see here, and I think it's multiple trips that are probably required to get the full flavour of it. So how do the ambassadors work on the grounds? We have one just over there.
And it's people like Ewan that sort of promote us really, and right from the beginning when the foundation was started, Ewan came on board, and it's just, there's a group of us. This isn't just about me. This isn't my story. I'm just the storyteller. And I have a wonderful group of people behind me that want to promote Dudley, want to promote Duncan, want to promote this story. And the story that we want to get across is that Duncan was just an ordinary working class lad who had a dream that he followed. And I want to tell the children of the Black Country that they can do that as well. You don't have to be born rich. You don't have to live in a big house. You just have to have this dream and this belief in yourself, and you really can do anything. And that is, I mean, Ewan is a great ambassador not only for ourselves and for the Black Country, but for sport and for young people. And this is the message that we want to get out.
And you've obviously looked around the museum, and an amazing amount of work's gone into it, and you can tell that. But what's it like for you seeing this story brought to life?
Yeah, amazing. Like Rose said, you know, seeing it go from the ground up really has just been incredible. She was saying earlier, you know, when we first came here, it was just the half of the office, and you know, there's a couple of bits out, and you just came in, and already then it felt amazing. But now it's just, I've just said it's like a TARDIS. You come in and it's like you don't realise how big it is. But no, the journey's been really, really, really amazing to see, and hopefully, you know, post lockdown it can continue, and you know, people can still be inspired. Like she said, you know, young kids coming through. You don't have to be, you don't even have to be, you know, rich or anything. You come from anywhere. And that's the story that I really like, and you know, giving back to grassroots, and that's all about my philosophy as well. So you know, I'm absolutely honoured to be a part of the foundation. Yeah,
and you know, great work that the foundation does, and that in itself continues. That's been ongoing even though we've had a pandemic going on, and
yes.
You know, when you're working in that area and you see the inspiration that people get from this must be payment enough for being involved.
Absolutely, and it really is the whole spectrum of things. For example, one of our visitors before we went into lockdown was an elderly man who had dementia. But he sat in the chair that is it's Duncan's dad's chair in the living room, and the 1940s music was playing, and he sang along, and I said, Frank, do you remember Duncan? Oh yeah, I remember Duncan. And for that minute his family had him back. And I was so proud of that, and I was so proud that it was Duncan that
it
brought
was a trigger.
him back. Absolutely, yeah. And that was really special for us.
Well, it's an amazing site. When are your expected opening times at the moment?
May the 17th, fingers crossed.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed that will work.
Yeah.
And if people do want to come along, you're easily found just above Black Country T-shirts.
Yes, in Castle Street in Dudley. And it's free to get in, and that's another important thing that we wanted for people. If you're on a low budget, and especially with the year that we've just had where people haven't been working, I didn't want people to have to pay. This isn't, as I've said, this isn't my story. I'm just the storyteller. And so much of this wonderful memorabilia has been donated to us. So I wanted it to be free for people to come and learn about Duncan, learn about our history and other characters as well in the Black Country.
Absolutely, everything down from the first TV in the Black Country
Absolutely,
as well.
yes.
So, I mean, it's not HD. Things weren't back in the day.
Yes.
So you can come along and see real museum pieces in a fantastic museum. It's an absolutely brilliant place to come and look around. Well worth doing. May is when you're looking for. What's the website so people can check back and all the socials?
It is www.duncanedwardsfoundation.co.uk.
Check out there, and you're all over the socials as well.
Yeah,
aren't you?
absolutely. Facebook and
it's
Twitter.
all links from the website, so you can check it out that way. And Ewan, as you appear rather a lot on social media as well, give us your details as well, because I'm sure you'll be posting some stuff from down here soon.
Yeah, EABskills and everything. So yeah, just that, you can see everything on there.
Check it all out that way. But Ross, thank you for the work that you've done to start off with, and thank you for letting me take a look at it today. And we look forward to you welcoming many more people back and them sharing their stories as you tell. Duncan Edwards.
Absolutely. Thank you.
As human beings living in a democratic society, respect is all important. There's been a survey conducted by Nationwide Building Society. Their head of community, Paul Hibbs, joins us, as does Jeff Brazier, TV presenter, former footballer and parent. Good afternoon to you both.
Morning, how are you?
Hi.
First of all, I mean, Jeff, tell us a bit about the survey that you've picked up on here and how it impacts our world these days.
Yeah, the survey's been done basically over 1,000 parents, 1,000 children as well, in terms of respect around football. And, with parents submitting that they feel like kids need to learn respect from a young age, and that actually football is a perfect environment for them to be able to learn to do so. And I don't know about your experiences of watching grassroots football on a Sunday morning, but it doesn't always convey that way. And it's almost like there's a small contradiction in parents saying that, we want kids to learn respect at football, yet they are sometimes not always the most glaringly obvious advert for promoting respect around the game. Have you noticed that?
I have seen that in the past, and often the kids will take the game seriously. They're playing to win very often, and the parents are just taking it sometimes next level, and that can be a little troublesome, particularly for the line staff.
The poor line staff, but very often you have to admit those line staff are actually parents for the other side who are trying to give their children a small advantage. In the amount of times I've seen a flag go up and then quickly be taken down again because that initial truthful reaction was overruled with, actually we need to stay in the game. There's actually nothing worse than that. So I think first and foremost, parents around football and around our kids' football, we need to be more honest, and we need to not cheat to gain advantage. And then you can start thinking about our conduct in terms of, are we encouraging, are we supporting, or actually are we criticising and being judgmental? Because that's never good for our kids. They might eventually end up playing with fear.
Absolutely. And I mean, in your time in football, obviously you had a great start to the career. And what was it like for you? And do you think it's changed these days?
No, it's not changed at all. I say that. So I was in the early years. My stepdad was my manager a lot of the time, and there was a lot. Basically, every game he was nailed on, he was going to get into some sort of argument with someone, and it got a little bit embarrassing. And it's almost like, am I here to play football and develop myself, or am I here to listen to you argue and worry about what's going to happen off the back of that? So we've had these conversations in adult life now, and it's interesting because his perspective, which will be mirrored by a lot of other parents, was he didn't want to give me a day off, as it were. He wanted to make sure that the pressure was always there because he didn't want me to get sloppy and too relaxed. And what I kind of offered to him in response to that was just that you do promote a fear of failure. Whereas, my mindset was about avoiding mistakes and pleasing him rather than actually developing myself and being fearless in making mistakes. Because if you're worried about making a mistake, maybe you won't play that ball forwards, or you won't make that risky pass because you're like, oh, that's a little bit too risky. You have to take risk in football as much as you do in life as well.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Paul, when it comes down to the survey that you've done here, I mean, footballers we're coming out as role models, and so we need them in the likes of the Premier League, etc., to be showing a good level of respect for each other and the rules of the game. But YouTubers as well were coming out, and obviously with the stories we hear in the news, different influencers going against each other in what they're saying. Respect is something which doesn't always seem to appear in that world.
No, absolutely. I think it's an issue across society in many ways, Jeff. And we did some research that sort of told us that respect was or disrespect was on the increase. People weren't allowed to have different points of view and opinions, and there seemed to be a lot of disagreement and a lack of tolerance for people's point of view. And as an organisation that's core value is mutual respect, we wanted to do something about it, which is why we've partnered with the Football Association to partner with their Respect campaign and launch this Coin for Respect campaign to try to start every football match in grassroots football match across the country with that moment of respect, where players can start to talk about it with referees at the start of the match and have respect for each other, respect for referees and parents and coaches too. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I've seen other surveys where youngsters today, YouTube, it's no big surprise to me. It's one of the most sought after career options for young people these days. It certainly wasn't when I was growing up.
They didn't have YouTube when you were growing up.
No, I know.
Same here. No, Jeff just about knows, but for us two, I think it's highly unlikely we had that sort of thing around. But it is, an area which we need to see respect in, and say grassroots football and the number of footballing YouTube channels that are out there means that actually if you can start to influence it in grassroots football, you can get that message across in this other big area that's influencing kids these days. I know that my nephew absolutely adores YouTube. In fact, it was mentioned in some gamer's YouTube video the other day for how well he'd done playing in front of his computer, and that sort of excitement is there, and getting the right message across from all levels is important. And at Nationwide, we're actually running a competition at the moment, which is actually minting some coins. So the first time the Nationwide's probably produced its own currency.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this is the competition we want every 3 to 17-year-old to get involved in across the country. There's a Coin for Respect competition, and we want children to get involved to design the coin itself. The best design will be sent into production, and we'll produce 20,000 of these and give them out to every grassroots referee at the start of next season to start the game. And in addition, the winning entries will win tickets to watch England when they're allowed back into the stadium. So get involved. You just visit the Nationwide website, nationwide.co.uk, and search Coin for Respect, and you'll find all the tools and information you need there.
So, but have we got to produce a head and a tail for the coin, I take it?
No, it's just one side. On the other side, we're going to have the FA Respect logo. And on the other side, there's going to be a design created by a child from England who wants to get involved.
Jeff, are you getting your lot involved, or are they a little bit too old now?
They're not playing football, either of them, but I'm regularly playing five-a-side, and I will tell you, Jason, I had a game against some really chirpy 17-year-olds in the week, and they were not being very respectful, but experience won through on the night. So I always think that being involved in that as a coach, as a someone who's like turning up to playing vets game, I think it's of paramount importance, because you never know who's watching. We're always setting an example, and kids ultimately follow our lead as opposed to listening to what we say. So it's always really important.
Absolutely, yeah. Lead by example, which is always the best way of doing it. We want to see that within top level football. With the FA involved, they are making sure that they are getting that message across. Working with Nationwide, and the info that's come out from this survey is obviously another fantastic way of doing it. And Nationwide, you've been so involved in football for so many years, and it's all about getting the right understanding of how the game works, and as you say, playing by the rules. Playing by getting respect and sharing that. You give and receive in the same way, then the world will be a happy place, and we'll see that the right sort of people growing up to go on to life and all the areas that they go into. So, I mean, Paul, give us all those details again on the competition and where we go to.
Yes, Jason, it's nationwide.co.uk. Search Coin for Respect, and you'll find all the information you need there.
And 3 through 17-year-olds can get involved.
3 through 17-year-olds, get as many people as possible get involved, and hopefully your coin will be the winning one that goes into production and will be shared around the country.
And we can follow that on the socials as well.
Yeah, if you follow Nationwide's Facebook page, it's on there, which is easy to find. But competition entry is on the website.
Brilliant. And Jeff, where can we find you on the socials these days? And will you be posting more pictures from your disrespectful 17-year-old's football match?
No, because he doesn't play. But I'll tell you what, I'll share a lot of my own. I just think it's a wonderful conversation that Nationwide and myself are trying to promote between parents and kids around actually, kids telling parents how they would like them to conduct themselves when they're watching them play football. I think if a lot of kids were given the opportunity to turn around and tell their parents, they'd say, well, actually, can you be a little bit quieter, or can you be a little bit more positive, and can you leave the referee alone? And ultimately, it is something that they're doing for fun and enjoyment as much as the parent would like them to turn professional. So it really matters what our kids want us to conduct ourselves like, more so than it does what we really get out of the experience, because we're just there to support.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not just thinking about the potential retirement fund that you kids signing for, Wolves or one of the other Premier League teams can make a massive difference to your life later on. So you're not. So yeah, you are right. But yeah, there's always that hope. However, we can also win the lottery too. And if we do, either way, the cash goes into the Nationwide. Get yourself involved in this coin competition, and it's all good. Let's have respect as we go along. Jeff Brazier, TV presenter, former footballer and parent, and Paul Hibbs, head of community at Nationwide Building Society. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Chloe Rose is part of the lineup for Trentham Live 2021, which runs from the 3rd through to the 5th of September. She is part of the night that also features McFly and joins me on the line now to tell me more about the gig.
Hello.
How are we doing?
I'm good, thanks. Are you?
I'm very well, thanks. So what's been going on musically for you? Tell us a bit about what's been happening so far this year.
Before everything that happened, I was in the studio a lot, working on so much music. We've got so many tracks ready and demos that we just need to master and finish and just complete. I've not been in the studio too much this year due to everything going on, but I have still been writing, going back in when I can, and it's just super exciting. Yeah,
and obviously some great music out there already. Give us a bit of the back catalogue for those who haven't picked up on your music yet.
So we've only actually got one song out, and that was written in about 2014 now, and it's called For Me, and it's honestly, to me now, I'm a little baby when I was singing that song, but it was my first ever song, so I am super proud of it. But that is actually the only song I've got out at the moment. The rest is just covers on YouTube. And I've kept it that way for a reason, really. Yeah, because
I've been hearing loads of stuff, which is why I thought there was more that you'd actually got released. And the covers have been fun, though, and I suppose that's the sort of thing that's kept you going through the pandemic.
Yeah, that is a great way, especially if you're an artist. You feel kind of like your creativity's kind of stopped a bit. So to record covers, I've got a little recording set up at home. So I've just been recording little things when I want to, and it just keeps you busy, really. It keeps you going.
And so what was the work that you've been doing in the studio and that will recommence in the not too distant future? Because hopefully by the time you do this gig in September, there'll be more stuff out there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everything should be mastered by then and completed, hopefully.
So we'll expect to see some of your own songs then?
Yeah, hopefully.
That's the plan. So how do you describe your sound when you're not doing covers?
So I'd like to say that it's definitely pop. Because my fan base is so young, I try and keep everything as clean as possible, but I want it to have almost like an R&B style to it. Recently this year it's changed a lot because it originally was just pop, but now I just want it a bit cooler but still trying to keep it clean. I don't think many people are doing that at the moment, so I'm trying my best to try and get that right.
There isn't the need for all the language if you're just telling a story, and I mean, even pop music, it is about telling a tale, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I've always from a young age wanted the music. Say, for example, if you're say you're a parent and you're giving your child their phone or listening to me on the radio, for example, I don't want them to have to switch me off because it's bad language or inappropriate, because my mum always let me listen to things, that wasn't inappropriate. And that's what I want everyone else to just grow up knowing, because I think at the minute things are just so inappropriate, and I just want kids to have a safe place to listen to music.
And it's about enjoying that music, so without the worry. And there isn't really a massive need for it, is there? You can have an edge without being edgy.
That's the point. Yeah, of course. There's a way of doing it, for sure.
So what's it like being part of this bill for Trentham Live? Because it's a fantastic 3 days of a long weekend of music, isn't it?
Absolutely unreal. And you know what's crazy? I didn't actually know about this until it was released on Twitter. And I remember seeing it on Twitter and I was like, what? And I messaged my manager and I was like, okay. And it was so crazy. And then I remember I was reposting it and everyone was messaging me saying how amazing it was. So it was like a little surprise, if I'm honest.
And you get to perform alongside McFly, who again are known for some fantastic fun music without having to be too edgy. They actually enjoy having a good dance around on stage.
Yes, and you know what's even crazier? I actually queued for hours with my mum when I was little to watch these before.
And now you're going to be backstage, chilling out in the green room with the gang.
Yeah, surreal.
That's going to be good. I mean, how old are you now? You're only very, very early 20s, aren't you?
21.
I thought you were. So which means that back in 2014, when you first released your music, you were literally the early part of your teens yourself. So you've kind of grown up bringing some fun music to people your own age, and again, I think that's makes it nice, isn't it? You're providing a bit of a good time, a bit of a dance along for your peers.
Yeah, it couldn't be any better if you ask me. It's what I've always wanted to do, and I couldn't see myself doing anything different.
With your background in music and enjoying creating stuff, you get the feel for what actually has gone before, which has put the likes of McFly where they are now.
I know. So right.
Is it an opportunity for your fans, particularly your local fans, to actually get to see you properly on a big stage for the first time as well?
Of course. I mean, there's people already messaging me saying they've bought tickets, which is just incredible. And I feel like because there's been such a long year of no concerts, no performances, that everyone's just so eager to get out, which is really good. It's like everyone's just been boosted again.
Well, I say it's going to be good to have live music back, and Trentham Live is going to be a fantastic way of doing it this September. You've got McFly, you've got Alfie Boe, you've got the Vamps, and you've got the likes of Chloe Rose as well, who are going to be really rocking it out, having a fantastic time on that stage in wonderful surroundings as well. I mean, Trentham Gardens are fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah, they look great.
So it's going to be well worth getting yourself along for an absolutely fantastic show, a fantastic venue, and the opportunity to enjoy some brilliant music. So give us all the details for you and your socials, how we find out more.
So you can find me on every social media at Chloe Rose OFCL.
Just look for Chloe and you can see what's going on. Get those covers, listen to those, hear the fantastic voice that she has, and know that before you get to the gig you'll be hopefully able to pick up some great new music that's come from your own pen. And who are you collaborating with on the work that you're doing at the moment?
So many people. We haven't actually got a collaboration that I can say.
It's all secret at the minute.
Yeah, at the moment everything's a bit top secret.
So check out all those details. It will be released slowly as we head towards the gig, and I know it's going to be a fantastic time to be had by all down at Trentham Live. If you want details for those tickets, just Google Trentham Live 2021. You will find out everything you need to know. But for now, Chloe Rose, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
A shocking report reveals that 2 in 3 parents don't have first aid knowledge to help their child in an emergency. And we never know what could be around the corner for us or any of our families. To tell us more, I'm joined now by co-executive producer of Sudden Adult Death, My Sister's Silent Killer, Sam Richards, and also by Katie Frampton, Inherited Cardiac Conditions Nurse Specialist. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, Jason.
First of all, I mean, we're talking about this in particular because there's a new BBC Three documentary, and this is looking at the terrible situation that, Sam, led to you losing your son, Toby.
Yes, Jason, my eldest son, Toby, passed away suddenly and completely unexpectedly in the summer of 2019. And he was an incredibly fit and healthy young man who had, never had any illnesses, major illnesses. I always felt so blessed that my kids were so healthy. I mean, let alone he had never even fainted or passed out in his life. Mm-hmm. And when Tobe died, our family, we had never heard of SADS, didn't even know it existed. And suddenly we were kind of thrown into this whole world of testing and, what on earth killed Tobe. And we have a younger son, and obviously terrified that, something like that could happen. And so we were, if lucky is the word, very fortunate that the borough that we lived in, Tobe's post-mortem and his heart went to this amazing woman who's in our film, Mary Shepherd, and Katie's fantastic team at St George's. We were fast-tracked into to have the tests that are very specific to these kind of sudden and unexpected deaths in young people. And my business is we make television programs, and we were so kind of horrified and just that we had never heard of this before Tobe died. And it's one of those things that once you start, to talk about it, nearly every single person you come across says, "Oh, I knew someone." And so what we thought was we wanted to make a documentary about it so we could raise awareness, so that people could, understand a little bit better what it is. And so we pitched an idea to the BBC, and they were really receptive. And we've made this film with a lovely young director called Lindsay, and she worked with Patrick and an incredibly brave Patrick and his family and all the contributors as we followed them going through the process that me and my son have gone through, which is what on earth killed Patrick's sibling, and trying to find out. And that's our motivation for making the film, so that people, knowledge is power. And, that there are 12, I now know that I didn't before, there are 12 young, unexpected deaths that could be linked to this a week in the UK. It's a vast number, and people don't even know about it.
And it is that unknown. As you say, people often say, "Oh, I know someone something happened to." It's happened to former colleagues at the radio station. Someone in their 20s passed away a number of years ago, and it is a shock to friends and family. And the lack of understanding makes that hurt even greater, for the fact that you don't know whether you could have done something, could you have found out, and that sort of doubt crosses your mind. And Katie, in what you see, obviously we've got potentially a cardiac incident which could cause this, with no obvious history.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult for the family, and we try as best as we can to support the family through this journey. As you say, lots of, particularly mums, feel a huge amount of guilt that they should have done something differently. Could they have prevented this? Largely the answer is no. They do just happen, and they are just such tragic events. And we just help families try and come to terms with what's happened and understand why it's happened, and to crucially protect other family members to ensure that this doesn't happen to any other members of the family.
Yeah, and in the documentary itself, ex-professional footballer Fabrice Muamba, he talks about his situation where he was effectively dead for nearly 20 minutes on a football pitch, being brought back round. For him, the worst happened in the right place at the right time. He had a team around him who could actually help. If you're at home, something like this happening potentially overnight, there's nothing the family might be able to do to assist.
Absolutely. And yes, as you say, Fabrice was very, very lucky. And unfortunately, about 90% of people who have a cardiac arrest outside of hospital don't survive. And so, that's why it's even more crucial that we raise awareness of this and put all our efforts into the research to prevent this from happening in the first place.
So what can families do? I mean, getting first aid trained is one thing, but you can't watch somebody the whole time, can you?
No, absolutely. And we would always say that, first aid training and to know how to do CPR is a fantastic skill that everybody should have. And having the defibrillators in the community is also very helpful. But ultimately, I think, people can donate to research, they can take part in research, and crucially, if something like this has happened in a family, then getting the family screened is vital.
Yeah, and we hear, I mean, particularly we're talking about Fabrice there, we often hear the story of being young footballers who might suffer a complication like this, a heart condition, and it's only because they are doing sport and being monitored that these things get picked up. Outside of somewhere where there's a professional organisation looking after you, you just wouldn't know.
Absolutely. Cardiac Risk in the Young do offer screenings for anybody aged 14 to 35 who would like to go for screening, which is fantastic, and a great charity that do that.
And Sam, obviously, thoughts remain with you and your family in your loss. But the work that you're doing through this documentary as well, and telling Patrick's story on the loss of his sister, it is about awareness. It is about getting out there and being part of the BBC Three output, which is specifically aimed at younger people. It's getting that message to get yourself checked. We've already heard you say you can be screened. It is well worth doing a simple check for a condition that you may, before now, as with your family, just had no idea was happening to people.
Well, that's absolutely right. And, BBC Three, we pitch it to BBC Three because it is that kind of 16 to 34-year-old demographic. And I think that, for us, if we had been aware of this before, and I think Katie would say, screening is not a silver bullet. It's not going to pick up everything. But Tobe was, exercising very, very hard because he was training to do the Marines Commando training. And if we had known about this, I probably would have said, Tobe, let's have an ECG, knowing now that may not have picked it up, but at least there's a better chance because they pick up some. And I just feel like that plays back into what Katie was saying. I think when you have children and as a mother, your default is guilt. I spend so much time, as I know other mothers and parents do, thinking, why didn't I get him checked? Why didn't I do this? What would have happened if I'd been there? All this kind of stuff goes over and over in your mind. And it doesn't matter how many times you kind of, rationalize it. And thank goodness for Katie and her team, because they are brilliant at explaining these things. And as you just heard with Fabrice, he had everybody there that could, thank goodness, do that for him. And I do know rationally that even if I had been there when Tobe died, if I was in the next room, I wouldn't have been able to have saved him. But what I would have been able to do, had I known about this condition, is I would have been able to kind of take him down to a friend of mine who runs a heart screening place and say, Tobe's, doing all this training, can we give him an ECG? And I think that's the thing. We know that people are tested a lot in kind of elite sports and other things. And I think that if, you're playing Saturday morning football or you're in the rowing club or what have you, if people watch this documentary, they might think, well, let's do some fundraising or let's, get some screening. Again, I know it's not perfect, but even if it can catch some of them, that's a really, really good thing, and so it just feels so important that people have an awareness of this. And also, when we were lucky with the coroner, that we had just the most brilliant joined up experience with the coroner and our subsequent referral to St. George's. Mm-hmm. It's not like that nationwide. Mary Shepherd in the film, in her research, they need more hearts. They need more, they need to build up the gene banks so they can look at these arrhythmias and look at, to gain more knowledge. And so we and to be able to better manage them. When I hear and I have in the last year or so, a young person's death certificate says natural causes. There's nothing natural about a perfectly healthy young person dropping dead, with no warning unexpectedly. Mm-hmm. My son was passionate about motorbikes and drove a motorbike. I thank God that he was at home, Jason. If Tobe had been driving his motorbike, God only knows what could have happened to other people, but our family narrative would have been completely different. It would have been, Tobe, he's on his motorbike, he's young, he shouldn't have been. And so every time you hear someone falls off a building from a scaffolding or is in the bottom of a swimming pool, every time now I think, could that be, it's not just drowning because they weren't a strong swimmer. And this is the thing. I am of the belief, the more we've worked on this film and being tested with Katie and her colleagues, that this is much, much, much more prevalent than we all know. I mean, in our family's case, we had never even heard of it.
Yeah, and a small cost to look at testing, greater understanding through the research that's been done here is going to help, and we hopefully can have the opportunity to avoid a loss of life, which is unnecessary potentially in this day and age, where treatments may be available if only we can find a condition which unfortunately isn't visible until the last moment.
That's right, absolutely. I just wanted to say, obviously, Patrick Mead and his family have been so incredibly brave, allowing us to kind of follow them through this terrible, terrible time to try and better understand what happened to his sister Lauren. And it's an amazing thing that they've done. And I really hope that, young people, parents, as many people as possible can watch it.
Well, available via iPlayer, Sudden Adult Death, My Sister's Silent Killer. You can find that documentary there. Understand, share, talk about, and although it's a difficult subject, it is certainly well worth approaching. So you can have that conversation, and there is testing that can be done, so you can find out more there. So check out that documentary on iPlayer. Katie, where can we go for more information about the screening for 14-year-old upwards?
So we'll share the Cardiac Risk in the Young website, where the details of screening for them will be available.
Okay, so cardiac arrest in the young is what we're looking for if you wish to Google that, as I say, but do get to iPlayer, check out the BBC Three feed for Sudden Adult Death, My Sister's Silent Killer. Sam Richards, co-executive producer of the programme and documentary, and Katie Frampton, inherited cardiac conditions nurse specialist. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
Thank
Jason.
you so much, Jason.
The nominations are in for Oscars Book Prize 2021. Co-founder James Ashton joins me now to tell me more about this year's competition. Hello, sir.
Hi, Jason. Hi. Thanks for sparing the time.
Well, no, good to talk to you, and it was great to see 2021's entries after we had so much fun talking about last year's books as well. So give us a bit of the background to the prize itself.
So we're in our 8th year now, Jason. This is a prize. This is the UK-wide search for the best picture book of the year. We set this up in 2014 after we lost our son Oscar in late 2012. And we thought a lot about legacy and what could we do and what would be a positive thing to come from this loss. And we always love sharing books with Oscar. And we thought, what if we can celebrate the books in this brilliant category? And we call them, we say we're in Gruffalo territory when we're talking about these books. And that helps people to understand. It's these really beautiful picture books, this marriage of great writing and the illustrations are very, very important.
Mm-hmm. And obviously Oscar had a massive impact in your life on the 3.5 years he was with you, and it is such a fitting way when he had such an interest in books, and preschool books are such an important part of that early learning process, aren't they?
Yeah, well, look, we think so. We loved sharing them with him, and of course the prize always starts with Oscar, and he'll always be at its heart. But we know we need to make this resonate. It's got to resonate with other parents, with children, with the publishers as well, that they can buy into this and what we're doing. And you're right, Jason. This is such a vibrant part of the book market. It gets huge amount of space in the bookshops, which fortunately now are open again. Mm-hmm. And we think if we can help to celebrate these authors and illustrators, so many of them are in it for the love. It's tough to make money in this part of the market. And also we want to be a signpost for parents, grandparents, godparents who are looking for a great book that hopefully their child will fall in love with.
And the pandemic has actually brought more time, with 32% of adults reading to their children during the pandemic. That's all based on figures from the National Literacy Trust. And obviously they're interested in being at the heart of making sure we get good literacy, because it's such a good step up when kids come to go to school. And with the accessibility of these books, it's an absolutely fantastic place to start. And with the shortlisted entries this year, again, another wide range of brand new material, which is fantastic.
I think it's great. I mean, I've lost count now the number of years that we've attracted a record number of entries. And as I say, it is a really vibrant part of the market. But you're also right. I mean, the idea of literacy, I mean, it's tough. I mean, there's something like 25% of kids start school and they're already behind where you'd expect them to be. And I think pandemic has made it hard. There are that very positive statistic from the NLT, who are one of our supporters, that some parents have stepped up and are reading more. But we do know that it's been very, very difficult for families. And, we just hope we can do our little bit to encouraging reading for pleasure, because there is such a thing. I suppose it's like being told to eat your greens, Jason. If you're not careful, reading becomes a chore. And there's all of these statistics that say the kids that fall in love with reading early, that they actually turn to a book for enjoyment, for pleasure, they're the ones that will prosper. It helps an inquiring mind and it helps their creativity. So that's what we want to encourage a little bit. I should also say, because we really want to reward these authors and illustrators, we're doubling our prize money this year. This is a £10,000 prize now.
Absolutely fantastic. The awards will be announced on the 11th of May. Her Royal Highness Princess Beatrice will be doing that. That will all be via the Oscars Book Prize website. But you've got 6 shortlisted books in there, and you've got everything from yaks, bears and dogs as the main characters here. So tell us a bit about that sort of shortlist of 6.
Well, it's such a menagerie, Jason. It always is. And, and so colourful. I must say, look, I do run the prize, but for the first time, I've been kicked off the judging panel because we had so many great people. Someone decided you've had your time. So, I've read the books and I've seen them. And I think what we're seeing, which is really coming through, the writers are very good with they keep it very, very tight, because this audience is very, very subjective. If you're not careful, this book is under the bed and never seen again. Mm-hmm. And what we've seen coming through, I think, is much more thoughtful ideas about, diversity. I think people who are creating in this space are really conscious now that all children and their carers need to be able to see themselves reflected in these books. So that's something that we've seen that stepped up in some of them. And I think also there's one or two of the titles this year really very strong on mental health and feelings and expressing yourself and so on.
So you can get the full list by nipping along to the website. What are the details there?
Yeah, it's oscarsbookprize.co.uk. And all the details on there. We have a virtual event to announce that on May 11th, because everything is still virtual. And we're very grateful again to have our supporters behind us: Amazon, the National Literacy Trust, and the Evening Standard in London.
Well, I'd say it's absolutely fantastic work that you're doing, promoting these great books, obviously all in a great cause, remembering young Oscar. And with his book prize going from strength to strength, long may it continue to continue to highlight some of the fantastic new work that's out there that is making a difference in kids' lives across the UK. But now, James Ashton, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jason.
LGBT plus Sparkle once again have their weekly get-together this Thursday from 2 till 3:30. Nick Gazzard is their guest. Paul Ryder and Nick join us now to tell us more. Hello to you both.
Morning. How are you, Jason?
All good here. Hope we find you both well. Paul, tell us a bit about this week's conversation.
I saw something that West Midlands Police had emailed me, and I'd never heard of them before, Hollie Gazzard Trust, and about round converse control. And I connected with Nick because I thought that it'd be good to highlight, obviously, during the pandemic. A lot of people might be confined between them 4 walls and stuff. And I just thought, well, it doesn't just affect the LGBT community, it affects everybody. And I just connected with Nick and thought it'd be a good subject to highlight.
So, Nick, tell us more about the Hollie Gazzard Trust, please.
Yes, the Hollie Gazzard Trust was formed in 2014, and I was the founder. And it was formed following the murder of Hollie Gazzard. And she was 20 years old, and she had a previous partner who abused and stalked her. And then one day he walked into the salon where she was working and stabbed her to death. Now, Hollie is my daughter. She was only 20 years of age. And the reason why I set up the trust was to ensure that people like Hollie don't lose their lives needlessly, but also parents like ourselves don't go through this for the rest of our lives. We do a lot of training around coercive control, domestic abuse, stalking, and one of the big things that we have in our armoury at the moment is our personal safety app called Hollie Guard. And what we want to do is to try and help raise the awareness of these issues, provide education to school groups, community groups, businesses, but also help prevent these things happening in the future. And obviously Paul got in touch with me, and I'm more than happy to deliver training to anyone that that requires it, and we're meeting up this Thursday to run through some of these sessions.
Yeah, and through that conversation, that group there, you'll be able to spread the message of making sure that you can start to help to deal with a situation, avoid putting yourself into that sort of relationship. But it's not easy to do. These things sometimes maybe seem easy to say, but obviously Hollie, I'm sure, was a suitably mature 20-year-old, seemed to know what was going on in her world, and it wasn't her actions that were at issue, it was the partner.
Absolutely. You know, Hollie was very savvy. You know, she was a socialite, but she didn't understand the gravity of what she was in. And often people don't in this situation, because those manipulators, those perpetrators, are very clever. And it's quite often the subtleties that you don't pick up on. And one of the things that we're trying to do is to highlight these issues, healthy relationships. When they start to go wrong, how do they start to go wrong? How can you identify that they're going down the right path? And also, if you identify that you're in a relationship which is not going correct, what can you do about it? Because ultimately, these can end up in very, very dangerous situations. You know, we do a lot of work with the police to try and help highlight these issues, a lot of work in the community, you know, and people like Paul and his group are the type of people that we want to get these messages across to ensure that they stay safe. And that's where our personal safety app comes in as well.
Yeah, because, I mean, this situation can be across all genders, sexualities, and it can happen to anybody. And it's no fault of your own if you find yourself in this position, because these manipulators are very clever in what they're doing. They lull people into a sense of security, make them feel loved and wanted, and then want to coerce, control, and become jealous if you have conversations with other people. It can be anything that could trigger something like this. And the horrendous situation you and your family found yourself in, it's so difficult to avoid. There is nothing really that you could have done, you couldn't have known, but you can start to make a change from what you've learned in this situation.
Oh, absolutely. You know, domestic abuse has no boundaries. It doesn't matter whether you're male, female, or whatever, or it doesn't matter whether you're young, you're old. It doesn't care. It can affect absolutely anybody, you know, and over the last 7 years, I've gained an awful lot of knowledge and education around this whole subject. And when I look back in Hollie's situation, you know, she was only 20, she's just about to start her adult life. You know, she didn't have that life knowledge that we have, being a little bit older. And what I've learned in the last 7 years, if I look back on Hollie's relationship, I can see all sorts of very subtle things that were going wrong, which we didn't identify at the time, Hollie didn't identify. And I always say that, looking back now, if I had the knowledge then and the education, the awareness, I firmly believe I could have saved Hollie's life, because we would have acted, all of us, very, very differently. And that's what it's about, having the knowledge to take the appropriate action.
And through that conversation, you can avoid other people having the situation, the awful loss of life that your family suffered. And as you say, it is making Hollie's terrible situation into something which can help save others' lives. And this is what the Trust is doing. So tell us about the app and how that came about.
The app, yeah, the app was a chance meeting with my other daughter, Hollie's sister, and the chief executive of a company called Panic Garden. They had an app. A long and short story is that we got together, we developed the app, and we called it Hollie Guard. And now it's an app which is being downloaded by the thousands. We have 250,000 people now using this app, and we update it on a regular basis purely from the feedback that we get from users. And you know, last year, even during the pandemic, it was used an enormous amount. And, you know, and take the Sarah Everard situation a few weeks ago, we had over 80,000 downloads in 2 weeks, which was immense. So we know the need is out there. It shouldn't be out there, but we know the need is out there, and we have to fulfill that gap. You know, Hollie Guard is an app that you download to any smartphone. It's free to download and it's free to use. You know, we pick up those costs. And basically, it works by you setting up emergency contacts in your phone as to the people that you want to know if you are potentially in trouble. And when you activate Hollie Guard on your phone, all you do to send an alert to that individual is shake your phone or hold down the tile, and it sends a text message and an email to your emergency contact. And if they click on the link, they can see what's happening, because Hollie Guard starts to record voice and video, and they can take the appropriate action. You know, we've included this year an enhanced level of monitoring called Hollie Guard Extra, whereby it's a paid-for service, but your alert will be sent to a monitoring service who will look into it immediately, and then they will take the appropriate action. And that means calling the local police and getting them involved. That's what they will do. You know, the beauty about Hollie Guard is very simple. Nothing's held or stored on the phone. So even if your phone was lost or stolen, no one can see anything. It's all contained within your account in the cloud. Now, and we've just agreed with the CPS in the West Midlands that all the evidence on Hollie Guard can now be used in courts to help victims with the prosecution. So, you know, it is the thing to have. It's been downloaded by the thousands. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, whatever, or you're young, you're old, you can use it, and it applies to you.
Absolutely. And through that and through the security that you got behind it, everyone can know that it feels safe with the data that's been stored. And the fact that this is there, it's not just for absolute emergencies, it's there for the build up to avoid it becoming an emergency. If you are suspicious that somebody could be coercing you, start making sure that there is a record on your account, and that way somebody you've got something there you can talk through. You can then maybe talk to a counsellor or something. You can reach out and have a conversation with backing up data that says, is there something wrong here? Is there something I should be doing? Should I be getting out of here? And the fact that that's ticking over in your mind in the first place probably means, yes, that you need to make that change. But it gives you the ability to be able to talk to somebody else. And most importantly, stop that person doing this to you and to somebody else as well.
Yeah, the whole premise of the app is to help you feel safe. Mm-hmm. You know, if you've been a victim of a crime, you may not want to go out. You may not have the confidence to go out, or you might be, very nervous, have that anxiety in situations around people. Well, the app will help you there. You know, we've had our first disclosure from the police in a serious sexual assault. And we've been able to provide them with the data that someone was using Hollie Guard when that happened. So, it will help you feel safe. Hopefully it will help you keep safe. And from the feedback that we've had from people who use it, we know it has saved a number of lives already. So, yeah, it's a multifunctional app with lots of different functions in it.
And just the fact you've got it there, it means you're thinking about the situation too. And that will help get you out of there. You can send a message to someone to come and help you. It could be that they get that message, they phone you, somebody ringing you, could be that out that you need from that situation to make sure that you don't find yourself in further danger.
That's absolutely right. That's spot on there, Jason.
So that in itself is a fantastic tribute to Hollie, and making sure that others don't suffer as you and your family have. I mean, my thoughts, and I'm sure those of Paul and the team at LGBT+Sparkle are with you in your loss. And you must be so proud of what you've done. I'm sure Hollie would be proud of what you've done in her name. Where can you go for more information and to find the app, first of all?
Yes, you can go either to our website, hollieguard.com, or you can go to the our other website, which is hollieguard.co.uk, or even the Hollie Gazzard website, holliegazzard.co.uk. So you can go to all three sites, and they will all lead you to each other to find out more information about the app.
But the app is Hollie Guard. Find it in the app stores, and that's free to use. And so there is the additional paid-for service if you wish to have somebody monitoring your situation 24/7. But that is, again, a choice that you may feel you need to make based on a situation you found yourself into. And it is not always easy to get out of. That is the problem, isn't it? It's not simple to just walk away. As we've seen with the sad events around Hollie's life and the way in which it ended, there are people out there who they just don't stop when you tell them to stop.
That's absolutely right, yes. Sometimes you don't realise the danger you're in, and when you do, trying to get someone to stop is very, very difficult. So yes, the app will help you there.
And this is where Hollie Guard comes in to assist. Paul, give us all the details of this week's meetup and how people can join.
LGBTQsparkle@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Facebook. It's LGBT Sparkle Wolverhampton.
So all you need to do is request to be part of that group, and you can be part of the Zoom meeting which takes place this Thursday from 2 to 3:30. Nick Gazzard will be there talking about Hollie Gazzard and the Hollie Gazzard Trust. Thank you both for joining us, and Nick in particular, thank you for everything that you've done here, and as I say, I'm sure you've made Hollie proud.
Welcome. Thanks very much, Jason. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Well, that's all for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Back with episode 618 next week. I'll see you then. Ta-ra for now.
Goodbye from the Milk Bar. 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 Yeah. Goodbye from the Milk Bar. Yeah.